Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker, the current head of the Justice Department, today finds himself at the center of an explosive fraud scandal. Newly public documents reveal that Whitaker was more closely involved than we ever knew with a company called World Patent Marketing. That company shut down in 2017 for defrauding its consumers, allegedly scamming some out of their life savings. Whitaker previously denied knowing anything about fraudulent activities during his time with the company, but the documents released today show that he received multiple complaints from alleged victims. From the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Whitaker received more than a dozen emails and calls in 2015 from people complaining about the company, the internal documents show. In most of the cases, Mr. Whitaker forwarded the emails to Scott Cooper, World Patent Marketing CEO. Whitaker played down his role with the company when contacted by the FTC in October 2017. That's according to notes taken by an FTC staffer of a phone call with Mr. Whitaker included in the documents. Joining us now, Wall Street Journal senior writer James Grimaldi. Take us through your great reporting, and the documents seem to speak for themselves. What do we now know about how Mr. Whitaker responded to these fraud allegations?
Well, we know for sure that he actually got them. He appears to have at least reviewed some of them. He forwarded them to the CEO, as you quoted from our story there. And this is all from records, by the way, that we got through the Freedom of Information Act. I think what's happening is we're seeing a body of evidence that's building that shows that Mr. Whitaker was either complicit, willfully ignorant, or in fact ignorant of the schemes that were going on at World Patent Marketing, none of which would look good for an acting attorney general, especially for a company that's now under active FBI investigation and had these serious allegations filed against them by the Federal Trade Commission.
That was my next question for you. So you obtained the documents through a Freedom of Information request. Is it your assumption that the investigation includes all the documents that you've seen and more? I mean, where does this story go next? It seems to be disqualifying at best and potentially some criminal exposure for Mr. Whitaker.
Right, so the FTC handled it as a civil matter. They shut down the company and basically, looks like they referred it to the FBI. Previously, in an earlier story, we confirmed that the FBI was under active investigation through contacts that they had made with the victims in the matter. And so we don't know where that FBI investigation is necessarily going to go. Sometimes those can take a while. But it does put him in a bit of a compromising position because he oversees, of course, the FBI now as the acting attorney general.
Frank, can you jump in on that question that was just raised, that he's under investigation by the FBI and he oversees the Department of Justice, which houses the FBI?
So the highest-ranking U.S. government official overseeing all fraud operations, anti-fraud investigations in our government, may well be wrapped up in a significant fraud himself, and as of today's revelation, may have actually given a false statement or inaccurate statement to an investigator at the FTC, resulting in an FBI referral. This is wounding to Whitaker. I don't see how he survives this. I don't see how he gets nominated to be AG and makes it. I'm not sure. This choice could not have even been worse for the president as an acting AG. Think about this. He's in a trick bag. If he wants to actually act out and do something with Mueller and constrain the Mueller investigation, he's immediately called before Congress to answer for why he's obstructing the investigation. Any communications he has with the White House on this investigation are subject to discovery. If he starts to get into the fraud area where his own former company is being investigated, he's accused of obstruction. He literally must stay in his office at this point and hope to God that nothing worse comes out. So this turns out to be the nominee or the acting position that we were all very worried about, that essentially is wounded deeply by this and probably going to get worse by the day.
And it's interesting. I'm thinking of George Conway and Neil Katyal's very high-minded academic articulation of why Matt Whitaker can't be Attorney General had to do with the Constitution. Here you've got sort of the low-rent version. He may be a criminal.
Well, low-rent is an interesting term to use, Nicolle. I mean, just think of the credentials that past AGs have brought to this job as distinguished lawyers or jurists or prosecutors.
I read the Wall Street Journal story thinking only in this time would I read this story.
And we think of this guy, as a former AUSA, but really what he was like a semi-businessman wrapped up in a classic kind of low-rent company. a promotional company for patents and inventions. If you look at fraud cases at the FTC or other departments, you'll often see these kinds of companies. There are mills of different kinds. They run different kinds of scams. And it's amazing that the acting AG was a lawyer for one of these places or had worked at one of them. You think about it.
It doesn't surprise me, but because this is Trump, right? This is Trump University. It's that same scam. It's hitting those very working class folks of all colors in Ohio who are up at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, you know what, I've got an invention. I think I can go to Trump University. I'm not surprised that he would pick someone who targets the least of these in this country and tries to make money. It's like Jordan Belfort and Wolf of Wall Street put into the position of AG, and it's an embarrassment that anybody in our administration would think that this guy is okay to continue this position.
Jordan Belfort. Much more impressive. Much more impressive.
We're going to settle this in the break. Let me give the last word to
Jordan
James.
Belfort on this show.
James, just tell our viewers, where you turn for. Are you dealing with attorneys for Mr. Whitaker? Are you dealing with the Justice Department? What was the
Justice
response?
Department.
And what was the response?
Zero response. They asked us to send them the documents. I said, well, it's a fat file, but more than 500 pages. One thing I will point out that even the attorneys at the Federal Trade Commission, when they were trying to serve him a subpoena, they tracked him down. You know where? At the Justice Department. And he responded. He responded with a voicemail that said, "Well, you can reach me now. I'm now the Chief of Staff to Attorney General Sessions," and that prompted a whole round of emails within attorneys, the enforcement attorneys in the FTC, who were shocked, who were saying, "You're not going to believe where he is now," and a series of OMGs among staff attorneys at the Federal Trade Commission. They were just as shocked as I think maybe you are that he was involved with this company. They shared with him also a particular email that was on the website in which he said, "As a former U.S. attorney, I would only align myself with a first-class organization." So Mr. Whitaker was putting really his esteem, his integrity as a former U.S. attorney for the southern Iowa as part of the credibility that he was loaning to this company that was later found to be a scam that defrauded people out of thousands of dollars and provided them absolutely no service in return, according to the Federal Trade Commission.
James Grimaldi, it's a great piece of reporting. We're grateful to you for joining us. Please come back. We're going to stay on this, and we hope you'll come back and join us.
Thank you very much.